In the story of Crime and Punishment by Fyodor Dostoevsky, it follows the story of a mentally ill man named Raskolnikov living in mid-19th century of St. Petersburg, who comes up with a plan for murder. Later on, we see how his crime affects himself and others. Through a psychoanalytical lens, Crime and Punishment develops a theme in how the acquisition of material goods affects our mentality, desires, and beliefs. It could lead to risky or immoral decisions that cause direct damage to our morality, or well-being, or the others around us. In page 1, the evidence states, it was not because he was cowardly and abject, quite the contrary, but for some time past, he had been in an overstrained, irritable condition, verging on hypochondria. He had become so completely absorbed in himself and isolated from his fellows that he dreaded meeting, not only his landlady, but anyone at all. He was crushed by poverty, but the anxieties of his position had of late ceased to weigh upon him. The passage simulates a common struggle for people in poverty. By dealing with financial issues, it shows how pressuring it is for them to endure. Most importantly, it represents damages in their mentality because of how stressful their responsibilities are. It can also be connected back to lack of physical support due to the character facing challenges all alone. The passage demonstrates how troubling it is for someone with a low-class status quo. With the acquisition of goods in Raskolnikov's case, it's money needed to pay rent. It affects his mentality by being absorbed into his own priorities, causing a risky decision of having to be isolated from other people. It can be mentally detrimental to him because of how pressuring his responsibilities are. On page 316 it states, "Now I beg your special, consider, if he had now succeeded in proving that Sofia Semyonovna was a thief, it would have shown my mother and sister that he was almost right in his suspicions, that he had reason to be angry at my sister on the level of Sofia Semyonovna, that, in attacking me, he was protecting and preserving the honor of my sister, his betrothed." Based on the context of this chapter, Lucian, an attorney, is trying to frame Sonia as guilty for stealing 100 rubles from him. However, he's been framed for slipping 100 rubles into her pocket instead. During this quote, Raskolnikov tries to interpret Lucian's intentions for his blackmail. He believes Lucian caused this in order to separate both Raskolnikov and his sister, Donia. From there, Donia will find out and run back to Lucian, believing his suspicions about Raskolnikov giving away all of his rubles during the accident of Sonia's father. From there, Donia would trust Lucian again and re-accept his proposal while distancing away from Raskolnikov. A psychoanalytic reading reveals that Lucian is trying to abuse his advantage of being rich. The reason for this is his own subconscious desires, mainly trying to marry Donia. With the character, he aims to marry Donia as a trophy wife and abuse her. So by relentlessly trying to frame her brother, it shows that he is immorally selfish with no consideration for the love of the two siblings, even if he is right. It connects back to the theme because Lucian uses his own money to gain his own selfish desires. By developing an anti-personality disorder, he breaks his own morals for the sake of wanting Donia. Also, not only does it damage himself, but the loving relationship between a brother and his sister, which he once again does not give any remorse towards. On page 66 to 67, it states, "He stood in the middle of the room, lost in thought. Dark, agonizing ideas rose in his mind. The idea that he was mad, and at that moment he was incapable of reasoning, protecting himself, and that he ought perhaps to be doing something utterly different from what he was doing. Good God," he muttered, "I must fly, fly," and he rushed into the entry. But here was a shock of terror awaited him, such as he had never known before. After the killing of Alyona and Lizaveta, Raskolnikov soon begins to feel a sense of trauma because of having to brutally murder the women with an axe. He did this for believing that killing Alyona would benefit the poor community of St. Petersburg. Considering her inappropriate attitude, poor treatment of her sister, and collection of wealth, it's no surprise on why Raskolnikov is delusional to believe it's his destiny to kill her. From there, Raskolnikov's mentality would be impaired. Combined with his anxiety disorder, his well-being would be damaged because of that intense pressure from guilt. It can also be seen as an internal conflict, because Raskolnikov has to face his own demons of becoming an extraordinary man. Since his main intention is to bring greatness to the lower class of his society, you had to risk being above the law in order to kill Aliona. The passage shows Raskolnikov's own mentality being infected by money once again. However, it's not just for himself, but also for the poor people's community. Along with the ill speak of Aliona, it leads to both an immoral and risky decision of having to kill and steal from her. Not only did it cause direct damage to both Lizaveta and Aliona, it caused mental damage to Raskolnikov, being permanently scarred from his murderous intentions. In conclusion, each piece of evidence shows the corruption of each character's morality. This is because of their position of either being poor or wealthy within their society. With both characters, Raskolnikov and Lucien, both are in a state of poverty or richness respectively. Because of that, their own morals have been disrupted because of their own selfish desires. The morality of crime and punishment is entirely dependent on the status quo of the society. Upon further inspection, it impacts their personalities and their actions towards their community.